Yeah, I'll be all right, though. I just need a day to hopefully kick it to the curve and get back to full strength. But it's good enough to get through the night, but it's getting worse, so I don't want to stay too close or far away from y'all.
I know you always want to play, but with a back-to-back, is that in question at this point?
Yeah. Obviously, it would take a lot for me not to play, but the way it's going and how the schedule has been and just how I feel, I mean, obviously we'll monitor it to see how it goes, but I want to be 100% for the long term.
You felt it during the game?
A couple of days now. After the Milwaukee, Indiana situation, so like I said, it was just trying to dig deep, especially in the second half, to get through the game, knowing Jimmy was out too, and yeah, it was a battle out there, but thankfully we got it done.
How have those conversations with Rick and Steve and Mike, just in terms of like when to pick spots to maybe rest and how to manage back-to-backs, how have those conversations compared to previous years?
We've only had one, so a lot of it is kind of the standard, understanding how the schedule's going, how we're feeling physically, mentally, some of the data that they're pulling from games and how we're moving, the speed of the game and all that type stuff. So we only had the one conversation yesterday, and some clarity came out of it just in terms of how we're trying to get through, especially this next couple of weeks, because it's pretty dense and we're all over the place. But it's not rocket science, really. It's just if you're able to play. If something pops up, a sickness or something that's alien to Jimmy's, I think it was his back. Was it? Like you want to be cautious, but we're trying to build momentum. That's why those 2 games on the road hurt a little bit, but we're all just collaborating.
Steph, we talked a lot about focus and execution after these first few games. Why do you think that has been such a struggle? And even tonight, it was like you guys are rolling, and then it slowed down a little bit in the third, and then you had to find your way in the fourth.
We would like to make everything easy, or make it look easy in the sense of winning games like this. And obviously, we came out the first half strong, built a big lead in the first. They made a run. We responded. No matter what lineup was out there, we always had an answer. It got a little, dicey in that fourth quarter, but that's just because they're a talented team. In the sense of how they play, fast-paced. D-Book is unreal, scorer and playmaker. If they're making threes, it's tough, and they switch 1 through 5. I think our last 3 games, including tonight, is just an understanding of how different teams are playing in today's NBA and being, able to adjust to it. And thankfully, we built up a big enough lead that through some of those droughts, we still had some cushion. So we're still getting better. I think that's the biggest thing. We're not where we want to be, but we're trying to win through the learning curves.
Do you feel like your play's been impacted by the sickness?
Tonight, the second half, Tank was on E. I'm not blaming the air ball on that. But just like I said, just trying to dig through it and get to the finish line and get a win and keep it moving.
How soon do you have to officially decide on tomorrow? I mean, that sounds like you got.
Pretty quick. But I'm gonna go see the docs right now and see what's going on.
I'm okay if you want to go that off.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, Steve, we just talked to a sniffling and coughing Steph Curry. How much do you think that's affected him? He said for a couple of days, and could you see it affecting him tonight?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, he's wiped out right now. So I don't care what the doctors say. We gotta get him some rest. So I'll make the decision right now. He's not going to play tomorrow. He needs some rest. He's been sick. All the travel, everything. It's just caught up to him, so hopefully, getting some rest, and hopefully he'll be ready to go for Denver.
And Jimmy, was that precautionary, or was that something that's happened again?
Yeah, I mean, he was questionable for a reason. He felt like he could go, then he tweaked it a little bit, so we took him out. So he's questionable for tomorrow as well.
And
Do you think Draymond will go?
We'll see. We'll see. It's we have to assess where he is as well, but we've got a great challenge ahead to go try to win a game shorthanded, and I'm excited for all the guys who are going to be playing tomorrow.
You were talking pregame about, you do have to take another look at how you approached these guys. Obviously, it was early season. Maybe the Portland game was the one time, but was just Steph's energy level part of the initiative of that conversation? Like, wait a minute, like I can tell there's something going on.
Yeah, I could tell on the road trip that all three of those guys looked tired. I mentioned it's a very unusual schedule to start the year, and none of them had missed a game, and I think they just ran into a little bit of a wall. And obviously, Steph came down with the illness, so we'll get through it and we'll be fine. But it's just a really tough part of the schedule, and we'll do the smart thing.
You got Pat Spencer in there in a little kind of a dead period, end of the second quarter. This could be seeing these players come in, not having major roles and contributing like that. Could you find a lift from something like that from not just
sure.
Spencer, but several guys?
I thought the bench was great. I mean, Moses was the player of the game tonight. His defense on Booker and his shooting, he was fantastic. He's just found his groove now, after missing most of training camp with the ankle. So it was a tough start to the season for him, mainly because, we just found a different starting lineup and a different rotation while he was out, and we were doing pretty well. But he's forcing his way back into the mix for sure. And then Quentin was great, but I thought the bench, Buddy, Pat, Trace in the first half really took control of the game. It was fun to watch.
Steve, to follow up on Moses, what do you see in his shot? I mean, he seems more decisive maybe, and how much will you need him? I mean, if Jimmy is out for any stretch and without Steph scoring tomorrow night, it would seem like you need him to keep producing.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a reason he was our starter last year, the last 30 games after we made the trade. His on-ball defense combined with his shooting and toughness, the way he crashes the offensive glass. So it's great to see Mo out there. We're going to need everybody. Tomorrow will be a night where, we'll get Will Richard in the game. We'll get Guy in the game. We need those high-energy guys throughout the season. I thought that group changed the game in Indianapolis the other night. Guy and Moses. So it's fun to see when the bench guys play like that. And we're going to need everybody. It's a long season, but we have a lot of depth, and we're going to use it.
Steve, you went to Trace in the first quarter after 2 straight DNPs. What did you think about him, and especially the way that him and QP kind of balance each other out with their differing skill sets? Yeah,
well, I mean, we wanted to get Trace in when Draymond was out for the rim protection and defense in the paint. He was a real presence, diving to the rim, offensive rebounding. It was just fun to watch Trace be that assertive and really just being aggressive in the paint, keeping balls alive, and then his defense was fantastic. So especially when Draymond is out, we're really going to need Trace.
Brandon's been really effective off the ball with Jimmy and Steph, but if those two don't play tomorrow, what do you expect to see from him in Sacramento? More on-ball responsibility or?
BP?
BP, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he'll for sure have a lot of on-ball responsibility. So will J.K., Pat, as well. So we'll share those duties. And like I said, I'm excited. These are games that are great opportunities for a lot of guys.
No Gary tonight, Steve. Was he having any health issue, or just the way it broke tonight?
Just the way it broke. I mean, we played 11 guys. It's hard to play more than 10, and it's nothing that Gary has done. It's just we've got a lot of guys, and we went a different direction tonight. He's still going to play a big role this year.
Did you get any in-game word on Jimmy? I mean, he did seem a little hobbled out there, but just did the back. You guys gave him the green light, and then obviously he left. What'd you hear about him?
I just heard at halftime that he was out for the rest of the game, and that's all. I mean, I didn't get any detail.
Steve, we talked a lot about focus and execution the last couple of games in Indy and Milwaukee. How did you think the guys responded specific to those two elements tonight?
Really well in the first half, and then we let our guard down a little bit in the second half. But I thought the first half was great, 20 assists and 5 turnovers, and second half we turned it over 10 times. Just right out of the gate in the third quarter, we had a couple turnovers, and Phoenix did a great job. They're really playing hard and well organized. Book's playing at a really, really high level, and they're shooting 1 million threes. So that's not an easy team to play against.
Question less basketball related. Prop 50 passed while you guys were playing tonight. I wonder if you had a comment on that.
Yeah, I mean, I voted for it today. I didn't love voting for it, but I felt it was necessary. So it's hopefully we can get back to a point where our democracy feels strong and healthy. It's not right now, and that's. But I like the way the law was phrased. That. If the other states decide to go back to what's fair, then we will too. Then that's why I voted for it. Thank you.
The Warriors should consider letting go of their young center for a bold free agent gamble. It might sound drastic just 2 weeks into the season, but the Golden State Warriors may already have a rare opportunity on the free agent market, one that could reshape their depth and perhaps revive a fallen star's career. While the team likely wants to spend the first stretch of the 2025-26 season evaluating its current roster before making any big decisions, there's a case to be made for an aggressive move, signing 3-time All-Star Ben Simmons. And to make it happen, Golden State might need to part ways with one of its youngest players, Tracy Jackson-Davis. Why Simmons makes sense for the Warriors. If there's any team built to unlock what's left of Ben Simmons' potential, it's Golden State. Simmons, once a number 1 overall pick and one of the most versatile defenders in basketball, has seen his career derailed by injuries, inconsistency, and an identity crisis on offense. Yet, his skill set, elite court vision, defensive versatility, and the ability to push the pace, fits seamlessly into Steve Kerr's motion-heavy system. The Warriors' offense thrives on spacing, quick decisions, and unselfish movement. For a player like Simmons, who has always been more comfortable creating for others than scoring himself, this environment could be the perfect match. He wouldn't need to dominate the ball or carry an offense, just read, react, and connect plays for a roster full of shooters. If there's a system that could make Simmons work again, it's one like Golden State's, a Western Conference scout said recently. It minimizes his weaknesses and amplifies what he does best. The roster math. The Warriors currently have one open roster spot, which many around the league expect to go to Seth Curry. But there's another path, one that involves parting ways with Tracy Jackson-Davis. According to Spotrac, Jackson-Davis is earning $2.2 million this season, with only $100,000 guaranteed if he's released before January 10th. That flexibility gives Golden State the option to move on from him and pursue a veteran minimum deal for Simmons without major cap complications. Realistically, Jackson-Davis hasn't carved out a role in Kerr's rotation. He's logged just 26 minutes across 7 games, with 4 DNPs, sitting behind Al Horford and Quinton Post in the depth chart. On paper, the swap makes basketball sense. Simmons, even in diminished form, offers more positional flexibility than Jackson-Davis. He can guard wings, switch onto guards, and function as a secondary playmaker, something the Warriors have quietly lacked since Draymond Green began managing a lighter workload. The state of Ben Simmons. Simmons' name has resurfaced in free agent circles after an offseason where he reportedly spoke with the New York Knicks and Sacramento Kings, according to Bleacher Report's Eric Pincus. Still, he remains unsigned, a reflection of how far his value has fallen since his All-NBA peak. Simmons flirted with the Knicks and Kings this summer, but it was believed he was looking for more than a minimum contract, which, at this stage of his career, is probably unrealistic, Pincus wrote. After parting ways with his agent Bernie Lee, he remains without a deal. Simmons' decline has been dramatic, but it's worth remembering what made him special. At his best, he was a 6'10" playmaker who could initiate offense, defend all 5 positions, and elevate teammates without needing to score. The shot never came, and likely never will, but in a role built on defense, transition play, and secondary facilitation, there's still a version of Simmons who can help a contender. The risk versus reward. Would Simmons even crack Kerr's rotation right away? Maybe not. But his versatility gives him a clearer path to meaningful minutes than Jackson Davis. Offensively, both players share similar limitations as non-shooters. But Simmons' ball handling and passing give him dimensions that the 25-year-old center simply doesn't provide. In theory, Simmons could function as a small ball center, a secondary point forward, or a defensive switch piece, roles that Golden State has used to perfection in the past. That's the upside. The downside, of course, is chemistry. The Warriors are famously protective of their locker room culture, and bringing in a polarizing player like Simmons could disrupt that balance. Still, Kerr's structure and leadership, along with the presence of Stephen Curry, Jimmy Butler, and Draymond Green, could create the kind of disciplined, player-first environment that Simmons has never truly experienced in his career. A calculated gamble. At this stage, such a move remains speculative. There's no indication that the Warriors are actively pursuing Simmons, and they may prefer to keep their final roster spot open until later in the season. But from a basketball standpoint, the idea makes sense. Golden State doesn't need Simmons to be an all-star, just a versatile defensive-minded playmaker who can eat minutes, change the pace, and offer something different off the bench. And if there's even a small chance that he can rediscover a fraction of what made him elite, the reward far outweighs the risk. Sometimes, the right system can rewrite a player's story. And if Ben Simmons is ever going to find his way back into relevance, Golden State might be the only place left that could make it happen. How Simmons would fit in Golden State's system. For all the speculation surrounding Ben Simmons' future, the most intriguing question isn't whether he can still play, it's where he can still make sense. Golden State, more than any other team in the league, offers a system built around movement, trust, and constant off-ball reads. It's a style that doesn't rely on isolation scorers, but on flow. That's why, conceptually, Simmons fits. Steve Kerr's offense thrives on read-and-react decision-making. Draymond Green has been the engine of that philosophy for a decade, acting as both a screener and secondary playmaker who can see the floor one pass ahead. Simmons, though less vocal and far more tentative as a shooter, mirrors some of those instincts. He's a connector, one assistant coach from the Western Conference said. The game makes more sense when the ball is moving, and Simmons has always been at his best when he doesn't have to force offense, just keep the rhythm alive. In that sense, Simmons could serve as an insurance policy for Green, someone capable of running the second unit or even bridging lineups when Green sits. His ability to rebound and push the tempo would allow the Warriors to maintain their identity even with Curry off the floor, something that's been a challenge in recent seasons. The locker room equation. Every move the Warriors make now runs through the filter of chemistry. The franchise's dynasty has been defined not only by talent but by trust, a culture of accountability built by Curry and reinforced by Kerr's steady hand. Simmons' reputation, fairly or not, carries baggage. His exit from Philadelphia and later struggles in Brooklyn painted the image of a player who lost confidence in his game and, at times, in himself. But inside Golden State's walls, the environment is different. Draymond Green, who once revitalized Andrew Wiggins' career by demanding toughness and clarity, could play a similar role with Simmons. Jimmy Butler, known for his intensity and competitiveness, would provide another voice that commands respect. If there's a locker room that could handle a personality like Simmons, it's probably Golden State, a former player said. They've got hierarchy, leadership, and an understanding of how to bring someone back into the fold. That's the intangible appeal here, the idea that Golden State's structure might not only help Simmons on the court but also restore his confidence off of it. The league's reaction. News of Simmons potentially finding a new home in Golden State has already sparked quiet discussions among executives around the league. Some see it as a potential masterstroke, a low-risk, high-upside bet on a player who, at his best, was a top-tier defender and facilitator. Others view it as unnecessary, questioning whether Simmons' presence might disrupt the Warriors' delicate balance. There's also the matter of optics. Simmons, once heralded as the next great two-way superstar, has become a symbol of unfulfilled potential. For Golden State to take that chance would be viewed as both bold and compassionate, a franchise betting on culture and fit rather than statistics. It would be classic Warriors, one Eastern Conference GM said. They've always believed in structure and system over hype. If anyone can turn him around, it's them. What's at stake for Simmons? For Ben Simmons, this would represent something far more profound than a basketball decision. It would be a final test of resilience. The 28-year-old has spent the past few years in search of belonging, fighting through injuries, scrutiny, and self-doubt. A stint in Golden State wouldn't guarantee a career rebirth, but it would give him something he's lacked since leaving Philadelphia: clarity of purpose. He wouldn't be asked to be a star or even a focal point. His job would be to defend, move the ball, and bring energy, a role that's both humble and freeing. In the Warriors' environment, players are valued for how they elevate the whole, not just themselves. If Simmons can buy into that, this could be the perfect final chapter to a career that once seemed destined for greatness. Golden State's bigger picture. From the Warriors' perspective, this conversation goes beyond Simmons himself. It reflects a franchise constantly evaluating its balance between the present and the future. With Curry, Green, and Butler all in their mid to late 30s, Golden State knows that opportunities to contend won't last forever. Adding Simmons wouldn't just be a gamble on a player, it would be a statement about the organization's willingness to evolve. It's the kind of low-cost, high-reward experiment that championship teams occasionally take when chasing one last run. Kerr and general manager Mike Dunleavy Jr. have both emphasized flexibility and creative thinking this season. They've already blended youth and experience more effectively than last year, and Simmons could offer yet another layer of adaptability, a player who bridges lineups and styles. The bottom line. No one's suggesting that signing Ben Simmons would be a move without risk. But the Warriors have always understood that greatness requires the courage to take those risks. For Golden State, this isn't about nostalgia or desperation, it's about possibility. It's about the belief that, under the right circumstances, talent can still find its purpose. And for Simmons, it might be his last real chance to prove that the story of his career isn't finished, just waiting for the right setting to be rewritten. If the Warriors are willing to take that chance, they might just find that both sides need each other more than anyone realizes. The Warriors' dream trade target after the Pelicans' disastrous start. The Golden State Warriors may have found their dream trade target, and it might be coming from a team in free fall. Despite a solid 4-3 start to the 2025-26 season, the Warriors have made one thing clear over the first 2 weeks: they still lack a true secondary playmaker. As much as Stephen Curry continues to orchestrate the offense with his usual brilliance, there's a growing sense that Golden State could use another creator, someone who can handle the ball, space the floor, and defend multiple positions. With the New Orleans Pelicans off to a nightmare start, 6 straight losses and no signs of stability, that need may align perfectly with opportunity. Enter Trey Murphy III, a player who fits the Warriors' DNA. Around the league, every front office keeps a mental list of players they value, whether or not those players are actually available. Murphy has long been one of those names, a 6'8" wing with elite length, defensive instincts, and a pure, repeatable shooting motion that holds up under playoff pressure. If a player like that suddenly becomes even potentially available, smart teams take notice. Murphy's combination of size, athleticism, and versatility checks every box the Warriors typically covet. He's the type of wing who can slide seamlessly into Steve Kerr's motion-heavy offense, play off Curry's gravity, and hold his own defensively in switch-heavy schemes. He doesn't need the ball to make an impact, but he's skilled enough to create his own shot when needed. He's not just a fit, he's the kind of player who could extend Golden State's title window. Why Murphy makes sense for Golden State. The Warriors have already retooled their roster around experience and leadership. The off-season addition of Jimmy Butler gave them toughness, defense, and another reliable shotmaker who can create in the half-court. But even with Butler in the mix, the Western Conference remains brutally competitive, filled with teams that can throw waves of athletic wings at you. That's where someone like Murphy becomes invaluable. He's the bridge between the old guard, Curry, Draymond Green, Butler, and the next generation of Warriors talent. His ability to defend multiple positions, hit threes at a high clip, and run the floor would give Kerr more flexibility in lineups, allowing him to keep pace with younger, faster teams while maintaining defensive integrity. He's exactly the kind of player you want next to a core like that, said one Western Conference scout. He can switch, he can shoot, he plays with energy, and he doesn't need 15 shots a night to be effective. That's the blueprint for longevity around stars like Steph. The strategic fit. Murphy's value extends beyond the box score. Defensively, his wingspan and timing allow him to thrive in switching schemes, something Kerr has leaned on heavily during his tenure. Offensively, he stretches defenses to the breaking point. When he's on the floor, opponents are forced to respect his shot, opening the driving lanes that Curry, Butler, and Green depend on to generate movement and mismatches. In short, he's the kind of two-way connector the Warriors haven't consistently had since their prime championship years. If Golden State were able to land Murphy, it would give Kerr the freedom to experiment, running small ball lineups with Green at center, using Butler and Murphy interchangeably as defensive anchors on the wings, and maintaining spacing without sacrificing defense. Timing and opportunity. The question, of course, is whether the Pelicans are truly ready to make changes. Teams rarely move young, talented wings like Murphy unless the season has gone completely off track, and New Orleans seems to be trending that way. A 6-game losing streak has already fueled speculation that the front office might consider reshaping its core around Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram. If that happens, Golden State would be foolish not to make a call. There's precedent for this kind of move. The Warriors front office has long balanced loyalty to its veterans with an awareness of timing, knowing when to act and when to wait. Bringing in Murphy would not only fill an immediate need, but also prepare the team for the inevitable transition from the Curry era to whatever comes next. The bigger picture. Golden State still believes its championship window is open. Curry remains elite, Butler has brought a new edge, and Green continues to anchor the defense. But the league has evolved, and the Warriors know that sustained success now requires depth, athleticism, and positional versatility. Murphy offers all of that, and he fits the Warriors' culture of unselfishness and intelligence. If the Pelicans' struggles continue, and if New Orleans starts listening to offers, this could become one of the most intriguing trade opportunities of the season. For the Warriors, it's not just about chasing one more title, it's about finding the right piece to bridge their past greatness with the future that's quickly arriving. And Trey Murphy, by all accounts, might be that bridge. What a trade could look like. While the idea of bringing Trey Murphy to the Bay is enticing, the logistics are where the conversation gets complicated. Murphy is still on his rookie-scale contract and represents one of New Orleans' most valuable long-term assets. The Pelicans would only consider moving him if they were convinced that their current build isn't working, or if a deal brought back immediate help and future flexibility. For Golden State, that could mean parting with one of their young players and possibly a future first-round pick. Names like Brandon Podziemski, Jonathan Kuminga, or Moses Moody could surface in trade discussions, depending on how aggressive the Warriors' front office is willing to be. The Warriors have shown in the past that they are not afraid to make bold moves when the opportunity is right. The Jimmy Butler trade last year was a reminder that this organization still thinks in championship windows, not rebuilds. You never want to waste the final prime years of a generational player, said a league executive familiar with Golden State's mindset. If they believe Trey Murphy gives them another real shot at a title, they'll make the call. That's how they've always operated. Why the timing matters. The early season in the NBA is often full of overreactions, but for some teams, it's also a wake-up call. New Orleans' 6 straight losses have exposed deep issues on both ends of the floor, inconsistency in shot creation, defensive breakdowns, and an inability to close out games. The pressure is mounting on the Pelicans' front office to do something. Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram have shown flashes, but the supporting cast hasn't clicked. Murphy's shooting and spacing were supposed to be part of the solution. Yet as the team continues to falter, the organization might decide to explore structural changes rather than minor tweaks. For the Warriors, that uncertainty represents an opening, a narrow window that championship-caliber franchises are trained to recognize. Potential impact on the Warriors system. If a trade for Murphy were to materialize, Steve Kerr would immediately gain a new set of options. He could deploy Murphy in smaller lineups alongside Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler, maximizing defensive versatility while keeping enough shooting on the floor to stretch opposing defenses. Murphy's ability to run the floor, spot up in transition, and defend both forward positions would fit perfectly in Kerr's fluid, read-and-react offense. It would also reduce the burden on Curry, allowing him to conserve energy for late-game stretches, a key factor as he enters his late 30s. Kerr loves players who can make quick decisions, said a former Warriors assistant. Murphy's one of those guys who doesn't overthink. Catch, read, move. That's exactly what keeps the system alive. Around the league, reactions and reality. Other teams are watching closely. Several Western Conference executives believe that if the Warriors were to land Murphy, it would re-establish them as a legitimate contender, not just for this season, but for the next 2 or 3 years. Meanwhile, for the Pelicans, trading Murphy would signal a major philosophical shift, from trying to build a balanced young core to prioritizing star-driven restructuring around Zion and Ingram. It could also lead to ripple effects across the conference, as other fringe contenders might feel pressure to act. Golden State adding Trey Murphy would be like when they brought in Andre Iguodala a decade ago, one scout noted. He's not a superstar, but he's the kind of piece that completes the picture. The risk and the reward. Of course, there are risks on both sides. The Warriors would be betting on Murphy's upside and health, while giving up youth and potential flexibility. The Pelicans would be parting with one of the few players who truly fits a modern, switchable style of play. But both organizations are reaching inflection points. Golden State knows its championship core is aging but still capable of winning at the highest level with the right support. New Orleans, on the other hand, faces the harsh reality that potential doesn't always translate to progress. That's why this idea, still theoretical, but increasingly plausible, feels like more than just trade speculation. It's about timing, identity, and the constant push and pull between the future and the present. Looking ahead. The Warriors aren't in panic mode. Their 4-3 start shows promise, not crisis. But championship teams don't wait for problems to become obvious. They anticipate them. And right now their biggest challenge is clear, finding another dynamic two-way player who can both complement and someday carry forward the standards set by Curry, Green, and Butler. If the Pelicans' struggles continue and the lines of communication open, Trey Murphy could become the most realistic and impactful trade target on the board. Because in Golden State, the window is still open. And if history has taught anything, it's that when opportunity meets preparation, the Warriors rarely hesitate to make their move.